per a Major League Baseball insider, the Nationals could and should be shopping MacKenzie Gore this offseason. So who said it, and is he right?
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And I am your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me on Twitter at RyanClary11 and also check out Locked On Nationals at LO_Nationals. And of course, we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. And later on in today's program, what do fans want? And what is your end goal for a fan when it comes to trading away players? And I'm going to make everything kind of make sense for you guys. So stay tuned for that conversation later on in the show today. But also teams that could be interested in trading for MacKenzie Gore. I've got a handful of teams that I think could be very realistic for what Gore could be looking for, but also for what the Nationals could be looking for. So is your team in there? Stay tuned for that conversation later on in the show today. But right now, the Nationals ace is generating trade interest for what feels as if the last few months, and I think that this makes sense for the Nationals. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and right now new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. So MacKenzie Gore, coming off an all-star campaign for the Washington Nationals, he is generating trade interest yet again, and I think this is the correct move. A lot of people will not be up for the idea of trading away one of your all-star players. I mean, this is a fan base, when talking about the Nationals, that has seen Juan Soto traded away. You have traded away Trey Turner, Max Scherzer. Like, these are Hall of Fame caliber talents that the Nationals have traded away. So the fact that the Nationals are 4, 5, 6 years into a rebuild and you're still trading away some of your star players, Nationals fans may not like that idea. But I think this is what the Nationals should be doing. There's a lot of context that has to be added here. Like, a lot of people, I think, will say, oh, well, when does it start? Like, when does it stop? Are you going to be willing to trade James Wood at this point? No, I'm not willing to trade James Wood. Am I willing to trade Brady House? No, I'm not willing to trade Brady House. Dylan Cruz, the list goes on. I'm not willing to trade those guys. And even CJ Abrams at this point, I personally am not willing to trade him. But when we talk about MacKenzie Gore, the discourse surrounding him, I think, is very, very interesting for what the Nationals could be seeking and really what the Nationals really have in their best interests. I'm going to say a name that a lot of Nationals fans will not like: Scott Boras. MacKenzie Gore is a Scott Boras client. MacKenzie Gore has 2 years left on his deal. What are the odds? Even forget Scott Boras real quick. What are the odds that the Nationals over these next 2 seasons are competing and ready to win? I will go out there and say there's a pretty slim chance that they are ready to compete within the next 2 years. You could maybe make a case out there for 2027, but I'm not willing to make that at this point. I think this is going to be a longer process than what people may anticipate. But one way for you to speed up that process is by making a game-changing trade. The reason why the Nationals traded away Juan Soto back in 2022 was because they needed to replenish this farm system. Right now, the Nationals have a pretty mediocre farm system, even after having the number 1 overall pick. Now, having new representation here with Paul Taboni, you may sit there and say, well, some of these guys may turn around with data and analytics, and this upside here might actually turn into some real good players that we might not be seeing right now. And you're right. Things could change. But also, the quickest way to get that change, in my opinion, with where the Nationals are now, is by trading away someone like MacKenzie Gore. The value that you would get in return for someone who does have ace stuff, for someone who has 2 years left of control, and for someone who's going to be really hard to re-sign here in DC as it is, I think that makes sense for what the Nationals need. We can get into what packages could look like, and I've got a couple different ones for teams later on in the show today. But right now, with the Nationals and kind of where they are in this rebuild, trading away Gore makes sense. And right now, with the way that the Boston Red Sox built their team under Taboni and his leadership there, they built it through the farm system. This is a team that drafted, that developed very well. MacKenzie Gore has been a success story here in DC. He was an all-star this past season. He had the highest strikeout rate in all of baseball up until the midway point this season. This is a very, very good pitcher. And for a team that needs pitchers, you might look at this and say, why are we trading away our best player? This is not about getting better for 2026. Trading away Gore is not to say, oh, we're going to be better in 2026 without Gore. You will, in fact, be worse. I don't think I need to convince you of that. But down in 2027 and in 2028, 2029 and beyond, I think that this move by trading him now makes you better then. And that's kind of where the Nationals' eyesight has to be at this point. You have to look beyond this upcoming season and in 2027, quite frankly. Because I think in 2027, there's going to be a huge lockout, number one. And number two, things are just going to get weird. There could be a salary floor. There could be a salary cap. And I think the players' union and the owners, they're going to be stuck in the mud for a long time trying to generate a deal. But with what the Nationals need most is obviously pitching. But also what they need is talent. This is not a team that is ready to compete. This is a team that regressed in 2025 from their 71 and 91 seasons in 2023 and in 2024. We thought that this team could be better. There was potential for them to be buyers at the deadline. At least some of us were thinking that before 2025. Ultimately, that did not happen. You're sellers again. And I'll even go further. If I were the Nationals at this deadline, I would have traded MacKenzie Gore. They were getting calls about him. DeBartolo did say that there's no deal that really kind of interested him that much at that time. But I bet you that package haul that you would have gotten back at the deadline is probably a lot better than what you're going to be getting at this year's offseason, maybe. So as far as the Nationals go, seeing John Heyman talk about these trade interests again, I mean, he said that they should trade him, and he said that they could trade him. I think they should, and I think they will. I think this is going to be a big move of the Paul Taboni era, and this might be kind of a hot take because, again, probably not the best thing to do when you're coming into town is to trade away your star player. But Paul Taboni comes from a Red Sox organization that traded away Mookie Betts in his prime. They just traded away Rafael Devers in his prime. And the Red Sox got a lot better after that move. And right now, they've set themselves up for success. I would not be surprised to see the Nationals really kind of take that kind of hindsight and say, hey, we like MacKenzie Gore, but also we need some value elsewhere. If you can get another pitcher in your system, if you can get another second baseman, a power bat, a catcher, someone that could help you potentially this year maybe, that might be of value to this team. And with data and analytics, those players could turn around to be something very special for this team. So right now, Nationals fans, I think, will be livid by this, quite frankly. But I also think you have to have your eyes set on 2027 and beyond. Making a move like this makes the most sense for a rebuilding team. And also, Scott Boras. This is someone who will be leaving after these next two seasons. He will sign elsewhere. We have seen this. We have read this book before. You've watched the movie. You have seen this before. So if I'm the Nationals, and if I believe that MacKenzie Gore is probably going to walk after the next two seasons, which honestly, Who really knows at this point? But they're probably betting within internally that he'll probably walk. You make this move, and you have to, in my opinion. So, if the Nationals were to make this move, which teams out there have the prospect haul to do it? I'll answer that question, and it's juicy. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. And it makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Like tonight, Thursday Night Football, Carson Wentz going up against Justin Herbert. I've got Carson Wentz throwing 2 interceptions on a short week against a good Chargers defense. Watch out for that, but I also have the Chargers winning, so I've got them on the money line. I'm betting with Jim Harbaugh and, of course, Justin Herbert, so you want to do that with our friends at FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Again, that is FanDuel.com, and download America's #1 sportsbook. That is FanDuel.com. Let's be real, making excuses does not solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. And that's where Rougiette comes in. Rougiette.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to stop you from stop making excuses and start making moves. And of course, Rougiette makes it get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms or no in-person appointments. And even better, if you're prescribed, your treatment is shipped discreetly right to your door. So there's no process that is as fast and as simple as Rougiette. So visit rugiet.com/lockedonmlb to get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/lockedonmlb. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnMLB so they know that we sent you. Rougiette, stop making excuses and start making moves. And we are back here on Locked On Nationals. If you have not done so already, look up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcast. So the teams that could be interested in MacKenzie Gore, there's a long list of teams, in my opinion. But the first one that comes to mind is the Chicago Cubs. And yes, you might be thinking to yourself, Ryan, you said the Cubs were going to be interested in Gore at this past deadline. They were, but they were not willing to give up some of their top guys. But I do think right now they could make the case to do that, especially if they lose a guy like Kyle Tucker. Now, the Cubs are obviously in a win-now situation. Like, this is a team that has rebuilt, and they are a very strong team. And I think that right now the Cubs, and really kind of what they need most, is that frontline starter. MacKenzie Gore will provide that for you. Now, for the Nationals and the Cubs, what will the Cubs have to give up? I think right now, probably the most anticipated trade that could be made is with the Cubs. And I think that right now, the package that the Nationals could get is their number 2 catcher, Moises Ballesteros, who is a 21-year-old catcher, made it up to the major leagues this season. And he is a big-time power bat for them. I mean, in 20 games with the Cubs, he crushed the baseball. And I think this is someone who, again, has real good power. He's got the ability to hit for average. He can be okay defensively. He's not the best defender out there, which is unfortunately not music to the Nationals' ears. But he provides a long-term solution there, who's 21 years old, who's got plenty of service time left, and who can fill that catcher role that the Nationals have just simply not had since that 2019 tandem with Yan Gomes and Kurt Suzuki. So he would be my number 1 prospect to get back in return, but that would not be just that. The Nationals, again, are in a situation where they could get some real good value in return for them. So you send out a pitcher like MacKenzie Gore, you're going to get a pitcher back as well. That is number 3 prospect for the Cubs, Jackson Wiggins, a 2023 comp pick by the Chicago Cubs. He is their number 3 prospect, 24 years old, rose up to AAA this year, and in 19 appearances had a 2.19 ERA, 78 innings pitched, and 97 strikeouts with a 1.03 whip against him. I think that this trade package, having their number 2 and number 3 prospects, you could also probably throw in someone else like maybe the hometown kin of a James Triantos, who is a second baseman, also an outfielder for the Cubs. But I think that a package like that for the Nationals would be very enticing. Like, again, you figure out your catcher position moving forward with someone who's going to be your opening day catcher and who will fill that void for hopefully the next 6-7 years. And then you also have a starting pitcher with Jackson Wiggins, who could be one of your top starters moving forward, and is at 24 years old, is in the prime of his career. Like, that would be a big deal for the Nationals. And then you also kind of get a lottery prospect, the James Triantos, someone who grew up around here, went to James Madison High School in Vienna, at one point was a top 100 prospect, kind of fell off a little bit this past year, had some low numbers, struck out a little bit more than what people would have liked to see. But I still think him at second base / being a utility outfielder, I think that could be of interest to the Nationals. But even then, I think it's more so about the Cubs and what they need. They need a starting pitcher, and they need someone who's going to hold that front of the line for them. And MacKenzie Gore, who's under control for the next 2 seasons, I think that could be a very real possibility for them. So if I'm the Nationals, if I'm your fans right now, I'd be looking at the Chicago Cubs trying to make a deal for the Nationals ace, MacKenzie Gore. The number 2 team is the Houston Astros. I think they make a ton of sense as well. This is a team that is likely losing Framber Valdez, who has been an all-star in years past, been in the Cy Young race. And I think this is a team that, you could kind of make a case for them wanting to hold on to their prospects the way that they have played the past few seasons. Like, their dynasty might be over with at this point. But also, you can make the case for them wanting to win now. You have a couple of pieces. You just got in Carlos Correa this past trade deadline. It feels as if they could be ready to win again right here and right now. So I think what the Nationals would be getting in return is their number 1 prospect, Bryce Matthews, who made it up to the Houston Astros this season. Did not look all too good in the limited action that he did play. But this is someone who, again, has some power at the second base position. This is someone who is a really good defender as well, who could hold down the fort at second base, which obviously the Nationals need an upgrade there, defensively speaking. So I think Bryce Matthews would be that guy who is number 1 major league ready, a high caliber prospect, and someone who could help have this team win right now. So that's your number 1 guy. And then you'd also get into some others, and I think that would be the number 4 prospect, Walker Janik. This is someone who is their former first-round pick back in 2024, 23 years old, only stayed in high A this year, played in 92 games in high A, did really well, though, at the plate, had some power. He's got really good defensive stuff behind the plate, a cannon for an arm, throws out a ton of people down in the minor leagues. Again, going back to what the Nationals need most is they need to focus defensively here. And I think at that catcher position, I've always been the one to say, I want to put my offense first. But now talking about catchers and kind of seeing how this position has gone for the past few seasons, you kind of need to focus back defensively speaking and really what they need most. But the Houston Astros do not have the strongest farm system, so the Nationals will be getting more. And you will be getting Anderson Brito, their number 7 prospect, 21 years old, a 60 grade fastball. He's got a 4-pitch mix already, and he's put up some real solid numbers in his first 2 seasons in pro ball, having a 3.28 ERA in just 12 starts this past year. He was shut down due to injury at some point this season, but I do think that is someone that could really entice the Washington Nationals. And number 3, a team that is always in the loop to get better, always trying to figure out what they can and can't do, the Boston Red Sox. I could genuinely see a Boston Red Sox trade with MacKenzie Gore. Having that 1-2 punch of Garrett Crochet and then also MacKenzie Gore. You have Connolly early. Maybe they don't want too many lefties in that rotation. But I think if you really just kind of look beside that point, I'd be perfectly fine with that if I'm the Red Sox. And of course, they're in a win now mood as well. They need to get over that hump. They need pitching. They need experienced pitching. And I think that this is a move that would make sense with them. There's obvious ties with Paul Taboni and the Boston Red Sox working under them. I'm sure Paul Taboni was probably behind the scenes with the Red Sox back then saying, hey, we should probably kick the tires on MacKenzie Gore. So I'm sure there's probably some people in that building that really like that. And also, good news for the Nationals and their fan base. Nobody knows the prospects that the Red Sox have, like Paul Taboni and Devin Pearson, who is the assistant GM right now for the Nationals. So you would get back their number one prospect in return, Franklin Arias, who has been a very talented prospect, took a little bit of a step back this season, but at just 19 years old, made it up to the Double-A level, a solid defensive shortstop, someone who can hit, someone who has a little bit of pop, in my opinion. And I think that he would be a big kind of get for the Nationals. And also, I think you could get another guy like a Kyson Witherspoon, a right-handed pitcher, just 21 years old, a first-round pick from this past year's draft. This is someone that the Red Sox really liked, obviously. And of course, I think that that would make a ton of sense for the Nationals. And he could be someone who could rise through the ranks relatively quickly. And their number 5 prospect, a local kid, Brandon Clark. You may not have heard this name before, but this was someone who actually was drafted out of high school. He went to Independence High School out in Loudoun County. One of my buddies coached him. And this is a very intriguing prospect. At some point in time, he had some control issues, but check out these numbers real quick. In 14 starts and just 38 innings pitched across 2 different levels, he had 60 strikeouts rather, with a 1.16 whip in just those 14 starts. And this is someone who was a 5th round pick back in 2024, but he's got the potential to be a very good pitcher for any major league team out there. And Taboni is pretty familiar with guys who have track record of maybe not the best pitch mix, or maybe guys who have control issues like Connolly Early from UVA. A lot of people locally watched him a lot. Wasn't the best pitcher in college, obviously a good one, but the Red Sox drafted him and he became a monster in their system. So I think Taboni would like to get his hands on someone like a Brandon Clark as well. So to go through it again, you've got the Cubs, who could be surely in the mix for MacKenzie Gore, the Astros, if they lose someone like a Framber Valdez, and also the Boston Red Sox looking to take that next step. And also, I'll even throw another name out there because it's AJ Preller, San Diego Padres. You can never rule them out. And of course, they were actually the ones in the most on a MacKenzie Gore deal at the deadline. And also maybe a team like the Rangers could see a potential trade as well. So keep your eye on those teams trying to make a MacKenzie Gore trade. And again, Nationals fans, you might not want to make sense of it, but I'll tell you why. This is probably the best thing to do going forward. And yes, let me tell you guys about our friends over at PrizePicks. And this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. And every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. And playing PrizePicks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. I love how quick it is, and you can make your lineup in under a minute. My favorite part, well, PrizePicks just added stacks. So if I want to ride with a player, I can select their pass yards, their rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. And the new injury reboot feature, it gives you a chance that if a player leaves early and doesn't return, it will not count against you. So Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. So for Nationals fans out there who might want to close their ears and say, I don't want to trade MacKenzie Gore, what is your end goal as a fan? I think if you're just kind of thinking this through, you might be thinking to yourself, well, the end goal is I want to see my team back in October baseball. I want to see my team get back to being competitive and getting there the quickest way possible. Trading someone like Gore with 2 years left of control left for a team that may or may not compete over the next 2 seasons is that way forward. You might not be able to get past this point, though. If I'm a Nationals fan out there, you're tired of seeing your stars traded. I understand that. I truly get it. It sucks. It's a harsh reality of baseball. It's a harsh reality of the business of this game that we love, but that is the business of it. And if I were to tell you this, that the Nationals' quickest way forward is to by actually trading away your best pitcher that you already have a pretty poor pitching staff as it is, you might not be able to wrap your head around that. And I get it. But also, what would hurt more? Trading away MacKenzie Gore now and getting some prospects in return? Or let's say in 2 years from now, when he signs a $350 million contract with the Boston Red Sox, or the Chicago Cubs, or the San Diego Padres, and you get nothing in return for him. And over these next 2 seasons, you don't make the playoffs, you're back to 75 wins, and you're just kind of sitting there like, well, that's a pretty empty feeling. I'm tired of that empty feeling. I don't want to see Anthony Rendon walk out those doors. I don't want to see Bryce Harper walk out those doors. And let's be honest real quick. MacKenzie Gore they're not Bryce Harper, and he's not Anthony Rendon. Like, I like MacKenzie Gore. I think that he could be a great, phenomenal pitcher for this team. And I think that really any team out there, this is someone who is a special talent. I truly do believe in that. But it's not going to happen here. And it's not going to happen over these next 2 seasons. And really, you'll have an ace caliber pitcher, but at what price? Like, are you going to have someone who can and will be your number one and who will be an all-star moving forward? Yeah. But what are the Nationals going to do outside of that? Like, baseball is such a team sport, especially when it comes to pitching. We can talk about individual success. James Wood had individual success. MacKenzie Gore had individual success. CJ Abrams had individual success. Where did that get the Nationals this year? Not to the playoffs. So if you were to tell me that you could get value back in return that potentially could be, let's say, your next franchise catcher, that could be another arm, that could be a front of the line, mid kind of starter for this team, and let's say a second baseman and or a first baseman in return, that would make a lot of sense for what the Nationals need to do. And if your end goal as a fan is to get back to contending baseball as quick as possible, then this trade makes the most sense for you. So it's a tough topic to have because, again, Nationals fans do not want to talk about MacKenzie Gore trades. I understand it. You're tired of it. But also it makes sense. And for what the Nationals need most, they need talent. And that is a way to get talent in the door if you are not going out there and spending in free agency. So trading Gore, while it might suck, I think it is the right decision for this Nationals regime. So thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen. I will catch you guys on the flip side. Have a good one. Go Nats.